Welcome to Cat Has Questions, curiosity, stories, and the strange corners of everyday life. Hello, hello. Welcome back to Cat Has Questions. I'm Kat. So I just got home from vacation a couple days ago. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things before my day job starts tomorrow. I was off for over a week. And in today's episode, I had a couple little special guests walk in while I was trying to record, so you will get a fun little palate cleanser from my 3 and 4-year-old boys who wanted to pop in and say hi. And with that, let's get started. Today's case is one that has fascinated the internet for more than a decade, almost an extension of our Cecil Hotel episode last week. It's a story involving a missing college student, a notorious Los Angeles hotel, one of the most unsettling pieces of surveillance footage ever released to the public, and years of theories ranging from murder to government conspiracies to the paranormal. If you've spent any time in the true crime spaces online, chances are you've heard the name Elisa Lam. Maybe you've seen the elevator video, maybe you've watched a documentary, maybe you've fallen down a Reddit rabbit hole trying to figure out what happened. And honestly, that's part of what makes this case so interesting. Because depending on who you ask, the Elisa Lam case is either one of the greatest internet mysteries ever discussed, or a tragic story that was transformed into something much bigger than it ever should have been. As I've been researching both the Cecil Hotel and Elisa Lam's disappearance, I kept finding myself coming back to the same question. Why are we still talking about this case? More than 10 years later, people are still analyzing the elevator footage frame by frame. They're still debating theories, still looking for clues, still searching for answers. But what if the reason this case remains so compelling has less to do with what happened to Elisa Lam and more to do with how the internet responded after she disappeared? So today, we're walking through the timeline, the evidence, the theories, the investigation, and the conclusions investigators ultimately reached. And then we're going to talk about why, despite those conclusions, this case refuses to let go of the public imagination. This is the story of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam, also known by her Cantonese name, Lam Hoi, was born on April 30th, 1991, and was raised in British Columbia, Canada. The daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong, she lived a quiet early life attending University Hill Secondary High School before enrolling at the University of British Columbia. It appears she was not enrolled, though, at the beginning of 2013. In mid-2010, Lam began a blog named Ether Fields on Blogspot. Over the next 2 years, she posted pictures of models and fashionable clothing and accounts of her life, particularly her struggle with mental illness. Lam had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She had been prescribed several medications for her mental health. According to her family, who reportedly kept her mental illness private, Lam had no history of suicidal ideations or attempts, although one report claimed she had previously gone missing for a brief period. Lam had a history of not taking her bipolar medication and, as a result, on several occasions, suffered hallucinations that would cause her to hide under her bed for refuge, and she was hospitalized at least once for one of these episodes. The only reason I'm bringing up her mental state, her mental diagnoses, is because it does play a crucial role in this investigation. In a January 2012 blog post, Lam lamented that a relapse at the start of the current school term had forced her to drop several classes, leaving her feeling, quote, so utterly directionless and lost, unquote. She titled her post, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life," after a quotation from novelist Chuck Palahniuk. She used the quote as an epigraph for her blog. Lam worried that her transcript would look suspicious with so many withdrawals from classes, and that it would result in her being unable to continue her studies and attend grad school like she wanted to. So basically, due to her mental health fluctuation, she was concerned it was going to affect her future, which we all have concerns about what things will affect our future. A little over 2 years after Lam had started blogging, she announced she would be abandoning her blog for another one that she had started on Tumblr, called Nouvelle Nouvelle. Its content mostly consisted of fashion photos, quotes, and a few posts in Lam's own words. A lot of what we know about her, not a lot, but some of it, is from these blog posts that she would put about her life. So that's kind of why I'm bringing this up, because a lot of it does come from her own words. And we do have some insight as to how she was feeling, throughout her teens, early 20 years. Elisa Lam decided to travel to California from her hometown of Vancouver, Canada, for a solo vacation and a brief getaway from her studies at the University of British Columbia. She documented on her own personal blog that she wanted a break to do something fun on her own, and she planned a West Coast trip that began in San Diego, passed through Los Angeles, and was scheduled to end in Santa Cruz. She was traveling alone, and for Elisa, the trip was part adventure, part self-discovery. Like many young travelers, she documented pieces of her journey online. She posted photos, shared thoughts, wrote openly about her life, school, and her struggles with mental health. Nothing about her plans suggested that just weeks later, her name would become one of the most discussed mysteries on the internet, or that millions of people around the world would spend years trying to solve what happened to her. So Lam traveled alone on Amtrak and inner-city buses. She visited the San Diego Zoo and posted photos taken there on social media. On January 26, 2013, the 21-year-old Canadian college student arrived in Los Angeles. After 2 days, she checked into the Cecil Hotel near Skid Row. And if you haven't already, go check out my episode on the Cecil Hotel so you can get a good grasp of the scene where she was checking in and kind of the environment where she was. Today, the Cecil is famous, or infamous, depending on who you ask. The hotel had already accumulated decades of dark history before Elisa ever arrived. Murders, suicide, violence, urban legends. The building had developed a reputation unlike almost any hotel in America. But it's important to remember something. In 2013, most people knew none of that. Elisa wasn't checking into a famous internet mystery. She was checking into a hotel. At first, her stay appeared relatively normal, but reports would later suggest that hotel staff had concerns about some of her behavior. Lam was initially assigned a shared room on the hotel's 5th floor. However, her roommates complained about what the hotel's lawyer would later describe as, quote, certain odd behavior. And then Lam was moved to her own room after only 2 days. According to Amy Price, the manager of the Cecil Hotel and Stay on Main, at the time of her disappearance, Lam was leaving notes for her roommates that said, "Go home" and "Go away," and would lock the door to the room and require a password for entry. A few days before her disappearance, Lam attended a live taping of Conan in Burbank, but was escorted off the premises by security due to disruptive behavior. At the beginning, though, this wasn't a mystery. It was simply a young woman on vacation. And then she vanished. Lam had been contacting her parents back in British Columbia daily while traveling up until the day she disappeared. On January 31st in 2013, the day she was scheduled to check out of the Cecil and leave for Santa Cruz, her parents did not hear from her. Communication with her family just suddenly stopped. And for Elisa's parents, that meant something was wrong. Something felt wrong because she had been in contact with them regularly. She regularly checked in during her travels. And now they couldn't reach her. So they called the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD, and her family flew to Los Angeles to help with the search. Soon, a missing persons investigation began. Police searched, family worried, and days and weeks passed. No sign of Elisa Lam. No explanation, no answers. Hotel staff who saw Lam that last day she was seen said she was alone. Outside of the hotel, Katie Orphan was the manager of the Last Bookstore, which was nearby, and she was the only person who recalled seeing her that day. She said, quote, she was outgoing, very lively, very friendly, while getting gifts to take home to her family, Orphan told CNN. She was talking about what book she was getting and whether or not what she was getting would be too heavy for her to carry around as she traveled, Orphan said. Police searched the hotel to the extent that they legally could. They searched Lam's room and had dogs go through the building, including the rooftop. But the dogs were unsuccessful in detecting her scent. Sergeant Rudy Lopez later said, "But we didn't search every room. We could only do that if we had probable cause to believe a crime had been committed." On February 6th, a week after Lam had been last seen, the LAPD decided more help was needed. Flyers with her image were posted in the neighborhood and online, and it brought the case to public's attention through the media. On February 13th, so a few weeks after she was last seen, and there was still no sign of Lam, the LAPD released a video of the last known sighting of her taken in one of the Cecil's elevators by a video surveillance camera on January 31st. This surveillance footage would completely change the trajectory of the case. In approximately 2.5 minutes of footage, Lam alone makes unusual moves and gestures. She appears to press every button on the elevator panel, peers into the hallway, and then leaves the elevator at one point while its doors remain open. When the doors fail to close after she returns, she leaves, and then the doors later close. At times, she appears to be frightened, and then hiding and even talking to someone. And you can find this footage online anywhere if you're interested in watching it. They have the whole thing linked on even like the Wikipedia page for Elisa Lam, so you can watch the whole thing. If you've ever heard of Elisa Lam, chances are you've seen the elevator video or at least portions of it. Even if you don't immediately recognize her name, you've probably encountered clips of the footage somewhere online. YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, documentaries, true crime videos. The footage became so famous that it almost overshadowed the person at the center of it. And when you watch it for the first time, it's easy to understand why. The video shows Elisa inside an elevator. As I mentioned, she's pressing buttons, she's waiting, she's kind of peering into the hallway and moving in unusual ways. She seems confused and nervous. At times, almost, it's as though she's interacting with something that isn't visible on camera. Suddenly, the footage starts feeling less like surveillance video and more like a scene from a horror movie. Viewers immediately began asking questions. Who was she looking at? Was there somebody like in the hallway that she was talking to? Was she being followed or was she hiding from someone? Was there someone who was just outside of the camera's view that couldn't be seen who she was talking to? The internet became obsessed. People slowed the footage down, enhanced it, analyzed individual frames. Thousands of theories followed, and then hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions. Because the footage seemed to invite interpretation. Everyone saw something different, and once that happened, the mystery escaped the control of investigators, and the public had taken over. So the video drew worldwide interest in the case due to Lam's strange behavior, and has been extensively analyzed and discussed. Many of the commentators found it unsettling to watch. Several theories emerged to explain her actions. One was that Lam was trying to get the elevator car to move in order to escape someone from pursuing her. Others suggested that she might be under the influence of ecstasy or some other party drug. When her bipolar disorder became known, there was another theory that she was having a psychotic episode. Some suggested we were watching something paranormal happening, since the elevator doors seem to have a life of their own, and she appears to be talking to no one. The doors do open and close and then weirdly stay open for a while. Other viewers argued that the video had been tampered with before being made public. Besides the obscured timestamp, they claimed parts of the video had been slowed down and nearly a minute of footage had been removed. This could have been done to protect the identity of someone who otherwise would be in the video, either related or not to the disappearance. So, as the search for Elisa continued, so she still has not been seen since that day she disappeared, and this video footage was released, something happened. Something pretty horrifying. Guests at the hotel began complaining about the water. Some reported low water pressure. Some later claimed their water was colored black and had an unusual taste. And at first, these complaints seemed unrelated to the search for Elisa Lam. Really an inconvenience, maybe a maintenance issue, nothing more. But eventually, on the morning of February 19th, so a few weeks to almost a month after she disappeared, a hotel maintenance worker found Lam's body in one of 4 1,000-gallon tanks located on the roof, which provided water to guest rooms, a kitchen, and a coffee shop below. Through the open hatch, this worker saw Lam lying face up in the water where her body was discovered. The tank was drained and cut open since its maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate equipment needed to remove Lam's body. So they couldn't get her out of the only small opening that she could have gone into, basically. The full coroner's report released in June of that year stated that Lam's body had been found naked. Clothing similar to what she was wearing in the elevator video was floating in the water, coated with a sand-like particulate. Her watch and room key were also found with her in the tank. Lam's body was moderately decomposed and bloated from the water. There was no evidence of physical trauma, sexual assault, or suicide. Now we move on to the theories, where there are lots and lots of theories, and you can find 1,000 more online, I'm sure. Once Elisa Lam's body was discovered, the internet did what the internet does. People began trying to solve the mystery themselves. And almost immediately, theories exploded across forums, YouTube videos, blogs, and eventually social media. Some were relatively grounded. Others became increasingly bizarre. But together, they transformed Elisa Lam's death into one of the most discussed mysteries of the internet age. So theory number 1 was someone was chasing her. This was probably the most common theory out there. People pointed directly to the elevator footage. When viewers watched Elisa repeatedly step in and out of the elevator, look down the hallway, and appear hesitant to leave, many concluded she must have been reacting to another person. The argument was simple. Elisa looked frightened, therefore someone must have been threatening her. Supporters of this theory often point to moments where she appears to peek around corners, and at times she seems almost as though she's hiding. Others argue she may have been attempting to avoid someone standing just outside the camera's field of view. The theory became even more popular because the elevator doors remained open for an unusually long time. Some viewers interpreted this as evidence that another person was holding the elevator door open on the outside, or interfering somehow. The problem? Investigators never found evidence of an attacker in the footage, and the elevator's timing was later explained by its operating settings. Still, for many viewers, the footage continues to feel like someone is present, even if that person is never seen. But now I need to look up really quick the reason the door's not shutting. So some older elevators elevators today have a button that says door hold, which overrides the normal timer and keeps the elevator doors open for about 2 minutes. So they think maybe since she pressed an entire row of buttons that she probably pressed that. Another theory is that there was a glitch or mechanical sensor error. The Cecil Hotel's elevators were known to be unreliable. So those are just a few different theories as to why the doors were staying open. So along the same lines, theory number 2 was that she was murdered and the hotel covered it up. So another popular theory suggested Elisa was killed by someone inside the hotel. So this could also be tagged on to theory 1, I guess. If someone was pursuing her, this could kind of be part of that, but it's also another spin on it. Supporters pointed to the difficulty of reaching the rooftop water tanks. So how would she have known to go up to the rooftop? Or how could she have gotten there alone? Wouldn't someone have noticed? And just kind of how could a young woman end up inside a water tank without assistance? And who else would have known they were up there if they didn't work for the hotel? The theory expanded from there. Some suggested a hotel employee was involved. Others believed security failures were intentionally hidden. A few even claimed the hotel was actively covering up evidence. This theory gained traction because the circumstances genuinely seemed unusual. People looked at the water tanks, assumed they would be impossible for a single person to access, but investigators ultimately determined the rooftop access existed and found no evidence supporting homicide. Still, many people remain unconvinced, because I also believe, too, that there were multiple steps that she would have kind of had to go around, like a locked door to the rooftop access, like the door should have been locked and I guess it wasn't, or there should have been cameras there that happened to not be working, like those sorts of things. It all was just the perfect storm that it really seemed like someone in the hotel would have had to know something, or somebody who lived there, or, that sort of thing. Theory number 3 is a serial killer connection. So as we talked about last week, there were a couple serial killers who actually lived at the Cecil Hotel during their stay at the Cecil, when they're long-term staying. Because the Cecil Hotel already carried such a dark reputation, some people immediately began looking for connections to its infamous past. As I mentioned, the hotel housed serial killer Richard Ramirez during part of his murder spree, and years later, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger also stayed there. For conspiracy-minded observers, the history felt too strange to ignore. People began asking, could another killer have been operating in the hotel? Maybe someone who's trying to be like a copycat murderer? Could Elisa have crossed paths with someone dangerous? Was there a pattern connected to the building itself? The theory gained attention largely because Cecil already had a reputation for attracting tragedy. But investigators found no evidence linking Elisa's death to a serial offender. Theory number 4, which is one of my faves as a spooky girl, the paranormal theory. This is where the case became less true crime and more ghost story. This story's got it all. Because the Cecil Hotel already had a reputation for hauntings, some people viewed Elisa's behavior through a supernatural lens. They argued her hand movements looked unusual when she was in the elevator. Her behavior seemed disconnected from reality, and she appeared to react to things invisible to the camera and even talking to somebody who was there off camera or who wasn't there at all. To believers, it looked as though she was interacting with something unseen, perhaps a spirit or entity, perhaps something connected to the hotel's violent history. Online paranormal communities quickly embraced the case. Ghost hunting videos appeared, psychics offered interpretations. Some claimed Elisa had encountered something supernatural inside the hotel. And the theory still remains popular today. Not because of evidence, but because the footage itself feels eerie enough that people naturally seek extraordinary explanations.
Can I do a record?
My 3 and 4-year-old want to join me for the podcast, so if you don't want to listen to some cuteness for about 2 minutes, then you can fast forward to when I get back to the theories. Yep, just say what your name is.
T-E-D-D-Y.
What's that spell?
Teddy.
Teddy. And what's your name? You don't have to spell it, just tell me what it is.
I don't know.
You don't know your name?
No. Ollie.
Is it Ollie?
I want
What should we talk about on our podcast today? What are we doing right now?
I'm going to say teddy bear. That's what I'm going to record.
Okay, well, we're recording right now. I'm recording you right now.
And after I want to say it 100 laugh.
Okay, you want to come sit?
But why we can't hear it?
Well, you gotta record it first, and then you play it back after. So tell me what you're most excited about for this week.
My excited that I'm going to play all day.
You're gonna play all day?
Yeah, and I'm going to stay home. And I'm going to go to camp.
You're gonna go to camp tomorrow because
Yeah.
it's summer?
Yeah.
How old are you?
4.
4. Okay. Ollie, what are you excited for this week?
I don't know.
You don't know? Can you say how old you are?
3.
Remember, you just had a birthday, so how old are you? 3.
And Ollie turns. After Ollie does it, and he's not 3 anymore. He's gonna turn 4 like me.
Yeah, that's true. Can you tell...
But I'm gonna turn 5 before he turns 4.
Yep, you're right. You'll turn 5 and he'll turn 4. Can you tell everybody what you're holding? What are you guys both holding in your hands?
Little puppy. Little puppy.
What are your puppies' names?
Mine is Cutie.
Cutie. What's your puppy's name, Molly?
Cutie.
They're both named Cutie?
Yeah.
Well, that's confusing. Okay. Anything else you want to tell everybody?
Mom. It's gonna be me.
Oh, yeah. Should we sing a song really quick?
No.
Oh, you don't want to? Do you want to sing a song, Ollie?
Mom,
Okay,
watch.
what
Mom,
song do you
watch.
wanna sing,
Mom,
Ollie?
watch. It's gonna be me.
Okay.
Do you know what my puppy's gonna say?
What?
I love. Do you know what he's gonna record?
What?
I love Teddy.
Oh, the puppy said that? Okay, now, Ollie, let's hear your song. It's gonna be...
It's gonna be me.
Okay, that's gonna be too loud. You don't need to lean into it. So it's gonna be May.
What did I do? What did enough for you? It's enough for you. Hey guys, what? What is my puppy gonna say?
I don't know. Is he going to say woof, woof, woof?
No. Hey, it's Italian mommy.
What?
What is my puppy gonna say? I love Ollie.
Oh, yeah.
All
right.
And sometimes mine says, I love Teddy.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me today on my podcast, guys. I think it's time to go to bed with Daddy, right?
No, I want to hear it.
Oh, you want me to play it?
It's gonna be me.
All right, say bye-bye, then we'll listen to it. Say see you later.
See you later. See you later.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. So we talked about theory 1, someone chasing her. Theory 2, she was murdered and the hotel covered it up. Theory 3, a serial killer connection. And then theory 4, we talked about something paranormal going on. Theory 5 is a little bit further out there. So government experiments and mind control. As strange as it sounds, some theories became more elaborate. One suggested Elisa was somehow connected to secret government experiments. Supporters pointed to her behavior in the elevator and argued it resembled someone under psychological manipulation. Others attempted to connect her death to tuberculosis research. This theory centered around an oddly named tuberculosis test called the Lam Elisa test. So it's all capital. It's LAM-ELISA. So like just a very odd coincidence if you don't believe this theory. Online conspiracy theorists noticed the similarity between Elisa and Lam. For them, this wasn't coincidence. It was evidence. The problem was that the connection was entirely accidental. The Elisa test existed long before Elisa Lam's death and had nothing to do with her. Still, the theory spread widely because it combined mystery, government secrecy, and apparent coincidence. And people love coincidences as well as government cover-ups, especially when they seem impossible. Theory 6 is that the elevator footage was altered. Some viewers became convinced the surveillance footage itself had been manipulated. They pointed to the perceived gaps in timing, moments that appeared slowed down, missing timestamps, odd movements. These observations led some people to conclude police or hotel management had edited the footage before releasing it. Why? Depending on the theory, maybe to hide a suspect, to conceal evidence, to protect the hotel, to cover up a crime. But the reality appears much less dramatic. Investigators have stated portions of the video were slowed and quality adjusted before public release. But once people became convinced evidence was being hidden, every inconsistency became proof of a larger conspiracy. Another thing I think of too is depending on how long she was actually doing that in and out of the elevators, there could have been other people or another person who came and went in between that time and they wanted to cut them out because they weren't part of this, but they also did not want to release the footage with an innocent bystander in it. That's fully my opinion. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just saying there could be reasons if they did cut it. But then again, maybe it's a government cover-up. I don't know. Theory number 7 is the mental health explanation. Ironically, the explanation investigators ultimately considered most likely became the theory that many people resisted the most. Investigators learned Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Reports suggested concerns regarding whether she had been consistently taking her prescribed medications for her bipolar disorder. Experts have noted that severe manic episodes can sometimes involve paranoia, confusion, disorganized thinking, hallucinations, and unusual behavior. When viewed through that lens, the elevator footage can look very different. Instead of someone hiding from another person, it may show someone experiencing a mental health crisis. Instead of reacting to a threat in the hallway, she may have been reacting to perceptions that were feeling real to her. Investigators ultimately concluded her death was accidental, with bipolar disorder considered a significant contributing factor. But for many people, this explanation felt unsatisfactory, not because it lacked evidence, but because it lacked mystery. And perhaps that's why, more than a decade later, the debate continues, because people often prefer extraordinary explanations, even when the truth may be something far more tragic and far more human. So the investigation determined how Lam died, but did not initially offer an explanation as to how she got into the tank in the first place. Doors and stairs that access the hotel's roof are locked, with only staff having the passcodes and keys, and any attempt to force them would supposedly have triggered an alarm. The hotel's fire escape could have allowed her to bypass those security measures, and her scent was lost near a window that connected to it by the dogs that were tracking. A video posted to the internet after Lam's death showed that the hotel's roof was easily accessible via the fire escape and that 2 of the lids of the water tanks were open. Apart from the question of how she got on the roof, others asked if she could have physically gotten into the tank by herself. All 4 tanks were 4x8-foot cylinders propped up on concrete blocks. There were no fixed access to them, and hotel workers had to use a ladder to look at the water. They were protected by heavy lids that would be difficult to replace from within. The hotel employee who found the body said the lid was open at the time, removing the issue of how she could have closed the lid from the inside. So I think when they found her, it was something like the lid was closed when other people came up there, but then the hotel employee said, like, no, it was open, but I put the lid back on there. I'm not 100% sure, but it was something fishy about the lid because that was an argument like, well, how did she get the lid back on herself if it wasn't like a homicide? Because if she's already in the water, she wouldn't be able to put the lid back on. Police dogs that searched through the hotel for Lam, even on the roof, shortly after her disappearance was noted, and they did not find any trace of her. Proponents of the theory that the elevator shows she was under the influence of illicit drugs are not dissuaded by their absence from the toxicology screen, suggesting that any drugs could have broken down during the period of time her body had been decomposing in the tank, or that she might have taken rare cocktails of drugs that a normal screen would not detect. There was also a very low level of her prescription drugs in her system, and the number of pills left in her prescription bottle suggested that she had been under-medicating or recently stopped taking her medication for bipolar disorder, which could have led to a psychotic episode. The autopsy report and its conclusions were also questioned based on the incomplete information. For instance, it does not say what the results of the rape kit and fingernail kit were, or if they were even processed, even though they say she was not sexually assaulted. It also records some suggestion that there could have been sexual abuse. One pathologist noted it could have been resulting from like bloating in the course of decomposition, and the coroner's pathologists were ambivalent about their conclusion that Lam's death was accidental. After her death, her Tumblr blog was updated, presumably through Tumblr's queue option that allows posts to automatically publish themselves when the user is away. Her phone was not found either with her body or in the hotel room. Whether the continued updates to her blog were facilitated by theft of her phone, the work of a hacker, or through the queue is still not known. Nor is it known whether the updates are related to her death. On February 21st, the Los Angeles Coroner's Office ultimately issued a finding of accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a significant factor. The toxicology test showed trace amounts of her prescription medication, plus non-prescription drugs such as Sinutab and ibuprofen. And then a very small quantity of alcohol was present, but no other recreational drugs. Investigators and experts noted that the prescription drugs in her system indicated she was under-medicating herself, as I mentioned. For many people, that conclusion felt unsatisfying. Not because it lacked evidence, but because it lacked mystery. The internet had spent weeks building an elaborate puzzle. People wanted hidden answers, secret killers, conspiracies, something extraordinary. Instead, investigators arrived at a possibility that was profoundly human. A young woman experiencing severe mental health distress while alone in an unfamiliar city. This forces us to confront something much more uncomfortable. How vulnerable human beings can be, how frightening mental illness can be, and how quickly a life can unravel under the wrong circumstances. In September 2013, Lam's parents filed a wrongful death suit claiming the hotel failed to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk of danger to Lam and other hotel guests, and seeking unspecified damages and burial costs. The hotel argued it could not have reasonably foreseen that Lam might have entered the water tanks, and since it remained unknown how Lam was able to get into them, No liability could possibly be assigned for failing to prevent it. In 2015, that suit was dismissed. Even today, it's difficult to overstate how shocking that revelation was. The location itself felt almost impossible: a rooftop, a water tank, a missing woman, and that infamous elevator footage. The details seemed less like reality and more like the setup to an urban legend. And almost immediately, the questions emerge. New questions emerged. How did she get there? Did someone place her inside of it? Was the roof accessible to people? Seems like maybe if she went through a fire escape out a window. Had investigators missed something? Or perhaps more importantly, could she have gotten there on her own? The discovery answered one mystery, but created 10 more. More than a decade later, the Elisa Lam case continues to generate headlines, documentaries, videos, theories, and debates. And maybe it always will. Because in many ways, the case contains every ingredient people associate with a mystery. A missing person, disturbing surveillance footage, a notorious location, an unexpected discovery. But I think the reason this story has endured isn't because people are searching for a ghost. I think it's because the case forces us to confront something much more uncomfortable. The reality that sometimes tragedy doesn't arrive with a satisfying explanation. Sometimes the truth is messy and heartbreaking. And sometimes the answers people want are very different from the answers investigators find. Regardless of what theory you believe, I think it's important to remember that Elisa Lam wasn't a character in an internet mystery. She was a real person, a daughter, a student, a young woman traveling the world and documenting her experiences before her life was tragically cut short. And behind every viral video, every Reddit thread, every documentary, and every theory is that reality. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Do you think the official findings explain what happened? Or do you think there are still unanswered questions? You can find me on Instagram at CatHasQuestions. And if you're enjoying the show, leave a rating or review is one of the best ways to help more people discover it. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay curious. Thanks for listening to Cat Has Questions. If you liked this episode, follow the show and share it with someone who loves a good spiral. See you next week.